Outside a building under renovation, a worker on a wheeled scaffold was manually holding a ladder to stabilize it, while another worker was on top of the ladder. Due to this improvised and unstable arrangement, the mobile scaffold slowly rolled backward, pulling the unsecured ladder with it and causing the worker at the top to fall to the ground. Despite the significant fall, the worker was able to get up and walk. This incident clearly demonstrates extremely dangerous improvised work methods and multiple serious violations of basic scaffold and ladder safety. Ladders must never be supported by mobile scaffolds or held manually by workers. They require stable, level ground, and proper securing. In a field excavation site, an excavator operator struggled to lift and load an extremely large adobe rock into a front-loading vehicle. After considerable effort, the operator managed to place the massive rock into the vehicle's bucket. However, the rock's weight far exceeded the loader's capacity and stability limits, causing the entire vehicle to tip over onto its side. Fortunately, the operator was able to escape from the overturning equipment before being trapped. This incident clearly demonstrates the catastrophic consequences of exceeding equipment load ratings and inadequate load assessment before lifting operations. In a warehouse, a worker climbed an unstable ladder to reach elevated materials. When he reached the top, the unsecured ladder slid backward, causing both the ladder and worker to fall, hitting a solid table square to the body. This incident clearly demonstrates the critical dangers of improper ladder setup and failure to secure climbing equipment before use. All ladders must be positioned at the correct angle, approximately 75 degrees or 1.4 ratio, placed on stable, level surfaces, and secured at the top or bottom to prevent slipping. At a factory loading bay, 2 forklift operators were loading materials into delivery trucks. As one operator placed a load into a truck and began reversing back toward the warehouse, the truck suddenly drove forward. The forklift became wedged in the narrowing gap between the moving truck and the stationary loading dock, causing it to flip and invert. The trapped operator required assistance from a coworker to escape from the overturned forklift. This incident clearly demonstrates the catastrophic dangers of unsecured trucks during loading operations and inadequate communication protocols. All trucks must have wheel locks installed and parking brakes engaged before any loading or unloading begins. In a steel manufacturing facility, workers were conducting normal operations when one worker prepared to position a suspended coil of rolled steel. Without warning, the steel coil suddenly unraveled violently, releasing its stored tension and whipping outward in a dangerous arc. Fortunately, all workers in the area recognized the hazard immediately and were able to evacuate the area. This incident clearly demonstrates the extreme dangers of stored energy in coiled materials and the importance of proper coil handling procedures. Workers must approach coils from safe angles outside the potential release path and use proper lifting fixtures designed for coil handling. In a metalworking shop, a worker was taking a break near his operating lathe when the loose fabric of his shirt became caught in the rotating machinery. It grabbed his clothing and violently stripped it from his body, tearing it completely off. Fortunately, only his clothes were pulled into the machine, though he fell to the ground in shock. Coworkers rushed to assist, and one immediately stopped the machine. This incident clearly demonstrates the extreme entanglement hazards of rotating machinery and the critical importance of proper clothing around equipment. All workers operating or near lathes, drills, mills, or rotating equipment must wear close-fitting clothing with no loose sleeves, shirt tails, or hanging fabric. In a tire shop, a worker was inspecting a tire when it suddenly exploded with catastrophic force, releasing tremendous pressure. The violent explosion launched the worker into the air like a rag doll, and he crashed back down with severe impact. This incident clearly demonstrates the extreme dangers of overinflated tires, damaged tire components, and improper inflation procedures. Tires can explode when overinflated beyond rated pressure, when damaged sidewalls or beads fail under pressure, or when multi-piece rim components are improperly assembled or corroded. In a heavy textile factory, a worker was adjusting the bottom of a large fabric-filled bag suspended by an overhead crane. Without warning, the crane mechanism failed, and the massive bag dropped, crushing and trapping the worker's arm beneath its tremendous weight. Unable to free himself, Coworkers rushed to assist, but discovered the crane had malfunctioned and could not lift the load. The team worked urgently to manually reattach the rigging so the crane could hoist the bag and release the trapped worker. This incident clearly demonstrates the fatal dangers of working beneath suspended loads and the consequences of equipment failure during operations. All crane inspections must verify that hoist mechanisms, brakes, cables, and control systems are functioning properly before lifting operations begin. In a rice store, a woman was sweeping the floor when a tall stack of rice sacks beside her suddenly became unstable and toppled over, bearing her beneath the heavy bags. Multiple people immediately responded and worked together to remove the sacks one by one to free the trapped woman from underneath the collapsed pile. This incident clearly demonstrates the serious hazards of improperly stacked materials and inadequate stacking height-to-base ratios in storage areas. All stacked materials must maintain safe height limits based on base dimensions, typically no more than 3 to 4 times the smallest base dimension. In a furniture manufacturing facility, a worker was examining a wide wooden plank positioned on an extending table when the table operator accidentally activated the equipment. The extending mechanism pushed the plank forward, crushing the worker's ribs between the moving plank and a stack of planks behind him. The operator immediately noticed and disengaged the table, but only partially retracted it. The injured worker had to maneuver sideways to escape from between the planks before collapsing to the ground in severe pain from his crushed ribs. This incident clearly demonstrates the critical dangers of inadequate lockout procedures, poor communication, and workers entering machinery danger zones during operation. All equipment must be de-energized and locked out before workers enter potential pinch points or crushing zones for inspection or adjustments. At a quarrying site, an excavator was traveling across rocky, uneven terrain when it became unstable and rolled over onto its side. A worker who had been riding recklessly on the exterior of the excavator managed to jump clear before being crushed beneath the overturning machine. However, the operator remained inside the cab as the equipment tipped over. This incident clearly demonstrates multiple critical violations, including unauthorized riding on equipment and operating on unsuitable terrain without a stability assessment. Excavators traveling across steep slopes or uneven ground can overturn suddenly when the center of gravity shifts beyond stability limits. Outside a warehouse, a worker ran toward an automated gate that was closing and attempted to stop it by placing his hand in the gate's path. The gate lacked safety sensors and continued closing with full force, immediately crushing his hand against the frame. This incident clearly demonstrates the critical failure of safety systems on automated gates and the dangers of attempting to physically interfere with moving equipment. Emergency stop buttons must be accessible and clearly marked near all automated gate controls.